How to restore a motorbike.
And we are back with part 2, and here we are bringing the flame back into this big boy 250cc motorbike, which is called the big boy flame. So here you are observing the primer being applied to the fairings. And we mentioned in part 1 that we actually had to re-primer, re-sand and respray because of this paint that was used by the previous owner. So it's very difficult to come off, and also very difficult for the finish coat to stick onto it. So this is the primer that is being applied. And it gives it now an even color. So before you put the final coat on, you want to do some touch-ups with maybe spot putty, just so some maybe imperfections that you still find, and then also sand it down, and this will then be ready then for the final coat. Looking beautiful and ready for the final coat. So we did mess around a little bit. We had a little bit of blue paint that was basically in the storeroom and just gathering dust, so we used that. And here you're looking at the spot putty being applied. This is for some other imperfections. So now you will sand it down again, and you must always wet sand when you are working on a vehicle for spray painting, and that means sanding with water. So check out our page, our channel. There is a lot of videos on how to do things. Do give us a like, subscribe and so on, because this helps us grow. We can produce more content for you. So here we're looking at my favorite color, which is blue. And now you can see how we are just going to apply the blue and see if it gets that nice candy color that we are looking for. So we just messed around a little bit. Like we said, this paint was just gathering dust and we wasn't sure what to use it on. So we actually gave it a coat of this blue paint to see how it would look. But we eventually turned everything to black again. So a future bike that we will definitely bring into the workshop, we will spray this blue again, because it will look nice on a bike that has just nicer fairings, that stands out, a more sporty look. This bike is a street bike, so it doesn't have those sporty type of fairings, and that is why we just went with black again. So obviously when you're done spraying the final coat, you also need to do a buff and polish, is what they call it. So you will let it bake nicely in the sun while you're driving and so on to work. And after a week you will then sand it down again with maybe 1000 grit and polish it with a polishing pad and some cutting paste. So what this paste does is it cuts a layer of the paint and it brings that shine back. So sometimes before you spray your vehicle and want to bring your shine back to your car, you can maybe just give it a nice buff and polish. What they also use is a clay bar, and this also helps with those oil, greasy marks and so on your vehicle. So there is special equipment, chemicals used for the rims and so on, that you will see when you spray it, it produces a nice purple or so on color, getting rid of all the iron and so on. So here you're looking at the brakes that was replaced, or rather the accelerator cable. We have the source. We know where the sources are for many parts and many things, as you saw to our other vehicles. So we have the connections for anything at the Wyman. So reach out to us and we can help you out. So now we are looking at final photos of the bike, and it was only the brakes that was left to do, and we felt like let's make this a nice striking red. And now we can definitely move to selling the bike, but first there are some other touch-ups that we need to do. And here we got a little bit creative and just had to close this now to make it look good for selling purposes and just for the next owner. It's actually a lady that bought the bike, which you will see at the end. But before then, let's MacGyver and DIY at the Wyman. So here we are just taking a piece of cardboard first to get the mold and work with something, and now we are using a heat gun and some plastic in order to melt it into the shape. And this gives it now that nice shape that we need in order to fix it to the back. So this is obviously just a temporary fix in order to sell the bike and make it look nice. Obviously the owner or the next person was aware of this, and we tell them everything of what was done and so on, and basically now they can go and buy the proper things that is needed. So we only use the best spray, and this is the 2K spray that we spoke about. It has a nice shine to it, and like we said, nothing you spray will get perfect the first time. You still have to do a buff and polish, and that will bring out that shine and get rid of that imperfections. So sometimes you spray, you need to make sure that there is no dust on the floor or so on, because these particles, even dog hair and so on, any hair can mix with your paint and it causes the job to just look untidy. And at the Wyman, we are not about untidiness. We always clean up after we are done for the day, wherever it is on site by a client and so on. And we are always neat with whatever we do in terms of our tools and so on. And now you are looking at the end result compared to before, which you can obviously rewind back. You will see it looks so much better. In fact, the person who came to buy the bike didn't even really notice or see anything was changed. So you can see the bike looks nice, black, and with the brakes being red. And that's why we say now the fairings is not so sporty enough. It's a street bike, but not like a nice sporty one. And we feel like going forward with a sporty bike, when we need to spray again, we will definitely make it blue. And the client actually went to go get a helmet, because you will see now in the next video that the client actually came and we actually taught the client how to drive the bike when she purchased it. And her idea was to buy the bike, drive it, test drive it up and down the road and so on until she's confident to drive it home. So I can only applaud such a woman who is that confident and that brave enough, and it just shows, you know, there are people out there who are not limited to anything. And that's the same at the Wyman. You know, we don't limit ourselves to any challenge. We step up, we keep our head up, and we rise to the occasion. So we want to thank this client or the buyer for the awesome purchase, awesome time meeting the person and giving a lesson on how to drive, and just making sure she's happy with the purchase and throughout the transaction from start to finish. So we have sold many bikes before, and this is the first time we've actually sold one to a woman that we have taught also how to drive the bike, and there the bike is safely at her premises and the helmet, and definitely happy kilometers to her.